US shares resumed their upward climb in trading overnight following some good reports from major US corporates. Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Michael McCarthy, CEO at Moo Australia, and today we thank the Australian Dealing Desk for the writing of the morning report. Every major industry in the US finished in the green following a fairly weak session in Europe, and it was clear that investors in the US were responding to market reports. Now, in the previous night, we'd seen a number of key financials report, including Wells Fargo. Last night, we heard from Morgan Stanley and Bank of America. And in a very similar pattern, they reported a strong quarter, but a cautious outlook. And that cautious outlook weighed on share prices, and we saw both of those stocks drop despite reporting what seemed to be good trading conditions. But the standout report overnight was Johnson & Johnson. As you can see from this chart, they reported a very strong quarter. On a year-on-year basis, earnings per share were up by more than 18%, and they also lifted their estimates of what might come over the quarters and the following full year. And that will cause analysts to do the same. And of course, shifting up earnings expectations also shifts up valuation. So that 6% plus jump that we saw in Johnson & Johnson's share price could well see further gains coming through as analysts work through the numbers. After Johnson & Johnson, we've got some key reports coming up tonight. Netflix and GE will report. Both of those also good bellwethers for what's going on in the US economy. And Netflix, of course, opening up the season for a look at what's happening in the world of tech-driven retail. We've also tonight got US jobless figures and the retail sales. And if the retail sales are in line with the Johnson & Johnson report, we could see a further boost for US sentiment out of a strong retail sales number, something to look out for tonight. But we've also got some key data out today here in Australia. And if we go to the chart, you can see that the Australian jobless numbers have bounced around a lot. On the chart, the orange line is the number of jobless each month. The blue line is the expectations. You can see that the estimates of this number are often wrong. Now, that's important for investors and traders because when numbers come in that are well away from expectations, they can have a big market impact. So the expectations have slid a bit for today's reading. We're expecting now a slightly negative result in terms of number of jobs created over the month of June, somewhere between down 5,000 and down 20,000. That's revised downward from an estimate of plus 20,000. So it does appear that analysts are getting a little more pessimistic about the Australian economy. However, that drop in numbers, if it is met today, will keep the unemployment rate steady at 4.1%. If we see a reading away from that level, that could also have a market impact. So plenty to look at today. Futures markets are indicating we're off to a positive start across the region today. Nikkei, Hang Seng and Australian futures all in positive territory. Locally, they're suggesting we'll see a gain of around 50 points at the open, and we'll see how that feeds through. But one of the key considerations for the index performance today will be the performance of CBA, because CBA, being the heaviest index weighted company in Australia, often drives the index itself. And it was one of the reasons why we saw underperformance yesterday. CBA shares fell by 1.2%. And as you can see from this chart on the right-hand side, we've got the peak, that all-time high, but we've seen weakness since. And if we see further falls today, it could be the start of a corrective move in CBA shares. Now, given the concerns about valuation, it's very hard to get to the current share price using any valuation model that concurs with history. Given concerns about that valuation and institutional shareholders getting nervous about those valuations, we could see further pressure on it, given that it's possibly Australia's most overstretched stock. And if that selling does come through, regardless of what's happening across other sectors, it's likely to be an underperforming day. So CBA, one to watch. Unemployment data towards the end of the morning session today. Plenty to look forward to heading into a continuation of the US earnings season tonight.